Hi, I'm going to continue with my conference. In J. Wilde's mythology, we encounter human beings who came into contact with supernatural entities, fairies, holy wells, sacred trees, etc. Jane Wilde begins Ancient Legends with a preface in which she defends the importance of mythology as a source of human knowledge. The mythology of a people reveals their relation to a spiritual and invisible world. End of quote. This book by Lady Wilde focuses on the mythology of the Irish magical world, brought to life thousands of years ago by Iranian peoples. The city or Irish fairies preserve the attributes of kindness associated with their ancient Persian lineage. These joyful spirits symbolize the finest expression of the cheerful nature of the Irish people, lovers of music and dance. They were benevolent creatures, full of compassion toward mortals in need of help. However, fairies could also display a punitive or vengeful attitude toward those who built on their fairy rings or approached them too closely while they were combing their hair, dancing, or floating on a lake. In the chapter The Fairies as Fallen Angels, Wilde recounts the fairies of the earth and the sea are mostly gentle and beautiful creatures who will not harm if they are let alone and allowed to dance on the fairy rats in the moonlight to their own sweet music, undisturbed by the presence of mortals. This under the moonlight, provided that no more this detail of these fairies dancing under the moonlight is significant from an environmental and ecofeminist perspective. Women, like fairies in pre-Christian times, gather in circles to support one another. They often met at night in order not to be disturbed, so that they could sing and dance freely. Midwives assisted other women throughout their natural cycles, offering herbs to alleviate menstrual pain, aiding in childbirth and inducing abortions. As Morden's explained, women studied the lunar calendar to anticipate new births, as well as agricultural cycles to determine the appropriate times for sowing and harvesting. In The Fairies' Revenge, Jane Wilde recounts that a wealthy farmer purchased land and built a house on the site of a fairy fort. His neighbors warned him that the area he had chosen contained a fairy fort, but he mocked their advice and paid no attention, so the fairies took revenge. The first curse the fairies unleash is that through their magic the farmer's cow stops giving milk. The second, far crueler, is that they take the farmer's child to play with them at night, preventing him from resting. The child falls ill, so the priest is called. He sprinkles holy water and succeeds in putting the boy to sleep, allowing him to dream of angels. However, the angels take the child to heaven, and he dies. The farmer's wife is left alone and sorrowful. The legend ends by warning readers of the danger of depriving fairies of their ancient privileges. If this legend is read from an eco-critical perspective, it becomes evident that when humans appropriate all natural spaces, they cease to respect the natural cycle, and thus disasters may occur. The abuse of power by the wealthy farmer clearly symbolizes the excesses of affluent people who build at will. The legend conveys a clear eco-critical message defending nature and an ecofeminist one, as the female creatures, the fairies, take revenge on those who steal their place. The farmer's wife does nothing to prevent it, and as a result, she ends up alone. Therefore, the lack of sorority leads to misfortune. It places the power of the fairies, the Celtic myth, above that of the priest, Christianity. Finally, in Fairy Justice, A Legend of Shark Island, the fairies punish the protagonist for maltreating his wife. At the end, they claim, "You are safe, but mind, the spirits are watching you, and if ever again you beat your poor good wife and knock about the things at home just to torment her out of her life, you will die upon that rock as sure as fate." The feminist message of this legend shows the importance of sisterhood. Ancient myths teach timeless knowledge. This study of Jane Wilde's folklore highlights the impressive contribution of Oscar Wilde's mother, Jane Wilde, to the ancient pre-Christian myths with ecofeminist messages that can serve for environmental studies. Jane Wilde not only supported the Irish literary revival, but also vindicated the rights of women and environmental justice. For centuries, the remnants of pre-Christian and Celtic pagan cultures have been ignored, and it is undoubtedly the case that in a period of environmental crisis, a rereading of ancient Celtic myths can bring some light, highlighting the importance of social and environmental awareness for the preservation of the earth and all its living beings. This is dedicated to my daughters, Estrella and Ada, who turned into fairies, and my son, Roberto, who's got a wiggly tooth and is going to be visited by the tooth fairy very soon. Thank you very much. Bye.